Our next guest is dedicated to educating the public on what's healthy and what's not healthy. Dr. Adam Rajul will be joining us every Monday to talk health and nutrition. And joining me now is practicing and board-certified medical doctor, Dr. Adam Rajul. Hello. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited for you to be here. So, what's the new tobacco?
The new tobacco. So you guys remember when tobacco first came out? It was a cool thing. Everybody was smoking. They had it on magazines. And it was even, at one point, advertised as healthy. We now know the dangers of tobacco. But the new tobacco is processed food.
Processed food.
Processed food, followed by inactivity. Movement. Movement is key. Movement will save your life. So those two things are the new tobacco.
Okay, so then what happens if we are really hooked on the new tobacco?
Well, so it's hard because it's convenient, right? We live in an era of Uber Eats. We want everything delivered to us. You know, it takes time to cook. So here's what I say. Last episode we talked about the silent killer, and that is stress. We talked about how stress increases inflammation, and inflammation is the root of all disease, whether we're talking about cancer, infection, autoimmune disease. Today, which will be linked to the new tobacco, we're going to talk about the #1 killer in the USA.
Which is what?
Cardiovascular disease.
Ooh.
Cardiovascular disease. So 20% of people die from cardiovascular disease. So that's 1 out of every 5. And the data is actually pretty similar here in the Valley. It's just around 20%.
Man.
Obesity is at 42% nationally. That is an all-time high. And a big part of that is because of inactivity and processed foods. So I brought this whiteboard here today, and we're going to kind of break it down and talk about not only cardiovascular disease, but what I call risk factors and modifiable risk factors, which are risk factors that we can actually control.
Love that.
So I'm left-handed and I have terrible penmanship. I'm going to stick to my day job, but here we go. There's a nice little heart, heart disease. So this is the #1 killer, and like I said, 1 out of every 5. What is the #1 risk factor for heart disease? You guys have probably heard this before, and that is insulin resistance.
And what is that?
So insulin is a hormone secreted by your pancreas, and what that hormone does is it helps regulate and decrease your blood sugar. The problem is when you are obese, you end up getting insulin resistance where your body's needing more insulin to reduce your blood sugar. So that's why some of these diabetics are uncontrolled. You have doctors every so often increasing their insulin. I've had patients up to 100 units of insulin, which is a whopping dose. The good news, guys, is I've had some of these same patients get off all their medicines just by changing 2 things: their diet and their lifestyle. So they started exercising, started working out. I've had some patients get off all of their medicines. So for those of you at home that are taking a bunch of medicines, it's not too late. I always say better late than never. So insulin resistance is the #1 risk factor. And then I'm going to make 2 columns here because there are a number of things that can cause insulin resistance. These are the non-modifiable risk factors. So this you're kind of born with, right? So autoimmune disease, some of us unfortunately are born with autoimmune disease. And then the other one is genetics, right?
Yeah.
We're all, the reason that we are who we are is because of genetics. So genetics does play a role. But there's modifiable risk factors. One we talked about last episode was the #1 silent killer, and that is stress. And the thing that's crazy, Kayla, half of us are under chronic stress,
Definitely.
50%. Our bodies are made for acute stress. Something bad happens, our body responds. Our body is not made to be under chronic stress. And some data says up to 80% of us are under chronic stress. And that number is only increasing. So it is very important to reduce stress. And what goes hand in hand with that is sleep. Sleep is huge, guys. Sleep is when your body is recovering. It's when it's undergoing homeostasis. So if you're not getting proper sleep, even if you're doing everything right, you're exercising, you're eating right, that can also impact insulin resistance. And then the big one, and I'm going to put a big star next to this one, is diet. And in parentheses, I'm going to put processed foods.
Okay, so what's the best way for us to stay healthy? We're running out of time.
You know, John Cena, WWE wrestler, said it best. He said, if it's green or if it breathes, I eat it.
Okay.
So simply avoiding the middle aisles. You know, big food is poisoning us. They're poisoning our children in schools. They're poisoning our patients and the elderly population in the hospitals. I think we need to do a much better job as a nation in allocating food. And even if you look at it from a cost analysis, it costs the healthcare billions of dollars just to try to fix the issues that big food is causing through causing inflammation, causing developmental issues in kids. List goes on and on.
Wow, well, thank you. Where can we go for more information?
Well, you know, like I said, the big two things is food and movement. We don't have food here, Kayla, but you know what? We can do some push-ups.
Okay, okay, we'll be right back.